My best friend told immigration that my family was here illegally. 2 days later, my little brother was getting bullied because people at school somehow found out that we're getting deported. When I confronted her, she dabbed her eyes and said, "I'm just worried about you. If you need help packing," I knew what I had to do. Fast forward to now, we're still here, and she's sitting alone at our old lunch table, pretending not to notice that she's an outcast. When me and my family moved to Maine, I thought my biggest problem would be the lack of public transportation. Turns out it was a girl called Ashley, because back then I was extremely anxious, and the last thing I wanted was to sit by myself during lunch. So on my first day at my new school, I sat down with the first group of girls I saw and hoped they would accept me. And they did. Well, kinda. "Finally, an Asian who speaks actual English," was the first thing Ashley said when I introduced myself. I felt a heat rise in my cheeks as I tried to laugh it off. And when I looked around, the other girls weren't defending me, but they also weren't joining in, which was good enough for me. So for the next few months, Ashley's comments became part of my daily routine. She'd squint at me and ask if I could see properly. Whenever we saw a dog, she'd ask if my stomach was rumbling, and every time the entire group would go silent. That's when I knew they were scared of her. Scared of being that one student in school with no friends. And because I knew nothing was going to change, I tried to empathize with her. Constantly reminded myself that she'd grow out of it. And one day she did. We were all sitting in the lunch canteen when Ashley started tweaking out. Guys, I slid into the cutest guy's DMs and I think he really likes me." Without asking, she whipped out her iPhone and showed us his profile picture. That's when it all made sense. It was a Chinese boy. I stared at her in disbelief. The entire table was silent. That's when she turned to me with wide eyes. "Ching chong," she then coughed. "Cherry, I meant Cherry. I need your help. His parents are traditional and I don't want to mess this up." The other girls watched this interaction like it was a nature documentary. And maybe I'm too nice, or maybe I just wanted to believe people could change. But either way, I spent the next few weeks teaching her everything. How to use chopsticks properly, basic Mandarin phrases, what gifts to bring when meeting parents. And one day, I said something that changed things forever. "BTW, his parents will probably want him to date someone Chinese. But if you show respect and make an effort with the culture—" "What?" she interrupted. "That's not fair. Just because I'm born white, I have to suffer more." I pinched the bridge of my nose and nodded slowly, wondering when the her maturing stage would come. But something shifted after that. She went from interested to obsessed. She bought silk chupaos online and started wearing them to school. She replaced her Starbucks with bubble tea. And every day she'd stare at me with eyes filled with envy. Say things like, "You're so lucky to be born that way," or "I have to work so hard for what just comes naturally to you." The jealousy in her voice made my skin crawl. I thought things would get better when Kevin became her boyfriend, but instead they got worse. Whenever he was around, she would do everything she could to put me down. She'd correct my chopstick holding in front of everyone. Other times it wasn't even about my race. She would simply joke about how fat I was. "I'm literally size 0 LOL. The worst part was how she'd flip back to being my best friend the second Kevin left, like nothing had ever happened. I tried talking to the other girls about it. They all did that thing where they looked at each other but nobody wanted to speak first. Finally, Emma said, "Maybe she's just excited about learning," but her voice was totally flat. Luckily, everything exploded at Madison's birthday party. Ashley brought Kevin and spent the entire night putting on a performance. She made a big show of teaching everyone mahjong, constantly correcting me even though I'd been playing since I was 5. "In authentic Chinese households, we don't play with those Americanized rules," she announced. "Right, babe?" Kevin looked uncomfortable but nodded. Ashley continued. "You know what's so funny?" she said, turning to Kevin with this fake, sweet voice. "Cherry here is supposed to be Chinese, but she's basically just a Twinkie. Yellow on the outside, white on the inside." I finally snapped. "You know what's funny, Ashley?" My voice was shaking, but I didn't care. "3 weeks ago, you were asking if my family ate dogs." The entire party went silent. Someone turned the music down. "And what was that cute nickname you had for me?" I paused. "Oh yeah, Ching Chong." Kevin's face contorted like he had bitten into a lemon. "That's not— No, don't listen to her," she stammered. But it was too late. The entire friend group was now nodding their heads. Kevin was already packing up his stuff and getting ready to leave, cursing her under his breath. 2 days later, my parents got a call. It wasn't Ashley. It was immigration services. They called about an anonymous tip regarding our visa status. My hands shook as I watched my parents exchange worried glances across the kitchen table. Dad's jaw tightened the way it always did when he was stressed. Mom started organizing papers that were already perfectly arranged, shuffling through our visa documents for the 3rd time. "Everything is in order," she kept repeating, but her voice wavered. "We have all the proper documentation." The immigration officer on speakerphone assured us it was just a routine check, but Dad's face had already gone pale. He kept glancing at his work laptop, then back at the phone. I saw him pull up his company's HR portal twice before closing it again. That night, I heard him pacing in his study. Through the thin walls, I caught fragments of his conversation with Mom about workplace discrimination, about how one anonymous tip could spiral into questions at his job. He mentioned a colleague who'd faced similar scrutiny and never got promoted again. The next morning at school, I noticed immediately. Teachers who usually smiled at me now gave quick, uncomfortable glances. In chemistry class, Mrs. Peterson asked if I needed extra time to handle family matters. The guidance counselor pulled me aside between periods to ask if everything was okay at home. By lunch, the whispers had spread through the entire cafeteria. I caught fragments as I walked past tables. Deportation. Getting sent back. I heard they're packing already. Ashley sat at our usual table, surrounded by the other girls. She looked up as I approached, her eyes wide with fake concern. "Oh my God, Cherry! I heard about your family. That must be so scary, not knowing if you'll have to leave." Emma stared at her sandwich. Madison picked at her salad. Nobody met my eyes. "Where did you hear that?" I asked, though I already knew. you? Ashley touched her chest dramatically. It's all over school. Everyone's talking about it. I'm just so worried about you. I sat down slowly, watching her performance. She leaned forward, lowering her voice like she was sharing a secret. If you need help packing or anything, my phone buzzed, then buzzed again and again. I pulled it out to find my Instagram flooded with comments. Screenshots of posts I'd never made, messages I'd never sent, all with my profile picture, my username, but the words were cruel, mocking. They targeted Ashley specifically, calling her a wannabe Asian, and worse. What the hell? I whispered, scrolling through the fabricated evidence. Ashley's phone chimed. She glanced at it and her face transformed into wounded shock. Oh my god, Cherry, how could you? She turned her screen toward the other girls. More fake screenshots. The entire lunch table shifted uncomfortably. I didn't write any of this, I said, but my voice sounded weak even to me. Ashley's eyes filled with tears on command. I tried so hard to learn about your culture. I thought we were friends, but you're just jealous because Kevin chose me. Kevin dumped you at Madison's party, I reminded her, her face flushed. That's not true. We're working things out. You're just bitter because no Asian guy would want someone as whitewashed as you. I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. Several people turned to stare. Ashley immediately switched back to victim mode, dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. I can't believe you'd cyberbully me like this, she said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. By the end of the day, I'd received 3 emails from teachers about online responsibility and a note to see the principal first thing tomorrow. My phone had over 50 notifications from classmates who'd seen the fake screenshots. Some believed they were real, others stayed silent. I found my younger brother Thon waiting by my locker after school. His eyes were red, and his backpack hung off one shoulder like it was too heavy to carry properly. Some 8th graders cornered me at lunch, he said quietly. They said our family was getting kicked out of the country. They said you were mean to some girl and now we're all in trouble. My chest tightened. Then was only in 6th grade. He'd been so excited about joining the robotics club, making new friends. Now he looked smaller than usual, shoulders hunched like he was trying to disappear. It's not true, I told him. Someone's spreading lies. I know, he said, but they wouldn't stop. They followed me to the library. We walked home together in silence. Mom's car was already in the driveway, unusual for a Tuesday. Through the window, I saw her on the phone, gesturing with one hand while holding papers in the other. Inside, Dad sat at the dining table with his laptop open. His company's email system filled the screen. He minimized it when we walked in, but not before I saw the subject line of an open message. Background verification question. How was school? Mom asked, hanging up the phone. Her smile didn't reach her eyes, then mumbled something and headed upstairs. I started to follow, but Mom stopped me. The principal called, she said. Something about a meeting and cyberbullying accusations? I sank into a chair and explained everything. The fake screenshots, the rumors about deportation, how Ashley was behind it all. Dad's face grew darker with each detail. This girl, he said slowly, she's the same one who made those comments before? I nodded. And now she's targeting our whole family? Before I could answer, our doorbell rang. Mom opened it to find our cousin Victoria, who'd just moved to town last month for college. But instead of her usual bright smile, she looked uncomfortable. Hey, Aunt Lily, she said, not meeting Mom's eyes. I can't stay for dinner tonight, but it's Tuesday, Mom said. You always come for Tuesday dinner. Victoria shifted her weight. Yeah, I have a study group. She glanced at me, then quickly looked away. My stomach dropped. Did someone talk to you? I asked. Victoria's face flushed. I don't know what you mean. Victoria. Mom's voice was gentle but firm. What happened? My cousin sighed. This girl at the coffee shop near campus. Ashley? She said she goes to school with Cherry. She told me some things. What things? Dad asked. Victoria looked even more uncomfortable. She said you guys look down on other Asians. That you think you're better because you have papers and speak perfect English. She said Cherry makes fun of FOBs and fresh off the boat. Mom's voice was ice. We would never. I know, Victoria said quickly. I mean, I thought I knew, but she had these screenshots and she seemed so nice and concerned and you believed her over your own family? I couldn't keep the hurt out of my voice. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. She said you'd deny it. She said that's what elitist families do. They stick together and gaslight everyone else. She left without staying for dinner. Mom stood at the door watching her drive away, shoulders sagging. Dad went back to his laptop, typing furiously. Than didn't come down at all. That night, I lay awake scrolling through social media, trying to trace the source of the fake screenshots. The accounts posting them were clearly fake, created recently with generic names, but they'd been smart about it, making the posts look authentic enough that people believed them. My phone lit up with a text from Emma. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long moment before responding. For what? The typing bubbles appeared and disappeared several times. Finally, just sorry. The next morning, Principal Harrison's office felt smaller than usual. Ashley sat in one chair with her mother, a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a country club catalog. My parents flanked me on the other side. The fake screenshots lay printed on the desk between us. This is a very serious accusation, Principal Harrison began. Ashley's mother cut him off. Cyberbullying is a crime. We're prepared to take legal action to protect our daughter. I didn't send those messages, I said firmly. Ashley's mother turned to me with cold eyes. These screenshots say otherwise. My daughter has been nothing but welcoming to you, learning about your culture, dating Asian boys to be more inclusive. And this is how you repay her? I wanted to laugh at the absurdity, but Dad placed a warning hand on my arm. We'd like to see the original messages, he said calmly. Not screenshots. The actual messages from the platforms. Ashley shifted in her seat. I deleted them. They were too hurtful to keep. How convenient, Mom muttered. Excuse me? Ashley's mother's voice went sharp. Are you calling my daughter a liar? The meeting devolved from there. Principal Harrison tried to mediate, but Ashley's mother dominated the conversation with threats of lawsuits and demands for suspension. She used phrases like hostile environment and pattern of aggression, while Ashley Ashley sat quietly, occasionally dabbing at dry eyes. We left with nothing resolved except a promise to investigate further. In the parking lot, I overheard Ashley's mother on the phone. Yes, I want to file a formal complaint about cyberbullying. The perpetrator is a Chinese student. At my part-time job that afternoon, I tried to lose myself in the familiar rhythm of the bakery. Kneading dough, measuring ingredients, the warm smell of fresh bread. It was the only place that still felt normal. Then Ashley walked in. She pretended to browse the display case while I helped other customers, but I could hear her clearly as she spoke to each person in line. I wouldn't eat here if I were you, she said to an elderly man. I got food poisoning last week. Really? He asked, concerned. Oh yes, violently ill. I think they have hygiene issues. You know how some places are. She let the implication hang. The man left without buying anything. She repeated variations of this to 3 more customers before my manager Nathan noticed the pattern. Excuse me, miss, he said. If you're not buying anything, I need to ask you to leave. Ashley's eyes went wide with fake innocence. I'm just warning people. It's a public service. Leave. Now. She flounced out, but the damage was done. Over the next few days, our Yelp and Google reviews filled with 1-star ratings, all posted within hours of each other, all mentioning getting sick, finding hair in food, seeing bugs, things that had never happened. Nathan showed me his phone, scrolling through the reviews. Cherry, I know these are fake, but customers don't. We're already getting fewer orders. My throat tightened. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. No, he said firmly. This is harassment, but I need you to understand if this continues. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. At home, things were getting worse. Dad came home late every night, stress etched in every line of his face. He'd been asked to provide additional documentation at work. Routine, they said, but he knew better. Mom received an anonymous letter at her workplace. It suggested her degrees from China might need verification and questioned whether her credentials were legitimate. Her promotion review was coming up in 2 months. The timing wasn't coincidental. Then started having stomach aches every morning. Real ones. The school nurse called Mom twice in 1 week. He wouldn't tell us exactly what was happening, but I knew. The rumors had spread to the middle school. Kids could be cruel when given ammunition. My grandmother arrived from China for her planned visit in the middle of this chaos. She took one look at our faces and knew something was wrong. Mom tried to explain in Mandarin, but Grandma's face grew more troubled with each word. That night, I heard her coughing more than usual. Mom mentioned adjusting her medication, worried about the stress affecting her health. Grandma had a heart condition. She didn't need this. At school, the isolation was complete. Our lunch table had rearranged itself. Ashley held court at the center, with Emma and Madison closest to her. My empty seat might as well have had caution tape around it. I ate in the library, pretending to study, but even there, I caught people staring, whispering. The fake screenshots had evolved into accepted truth. Cherry the cyberbully, Cherry the jealous friend, Cherry whose family was getting deported because they'd lied on their visa applications. None of it was true. All of it was believed. During art class, I partnered with Catherine for a project. She was new, didn't know the history. We worked in comfortable silence until Ashley appeared at our table. Hi, I'm Ashley, she said brightly. You must be Catherine. I love your name. So unique. Catherine smiled politely. Thanks. Hey, just wanted to give you a heads up about your partner. Ashley's voice dropped to a concerned whisper. She's been sending really mean messages to people. I'd be careful about getting too close. I watched Catherine's face change, the way she subtly shifted her stool a few inches away. Ashley walked off. Mission accomplished. That's not true, I said quietly. Catherine focused on her painting. Sure, the group project in history should have been simple. 5 students, 1 presentation on immigration patterns. But Ashley had gotten to my group first. She volunteered incorrect dates for our timeline, mixed up key legislation. When I tried to correct the information, she gasped. Are you calling me stupid? Just because I'm not Asian doesn't mean I can't understand immigration history. The other group members looked exhausted. One muttered, let's just use Ashley's dates. It's not worth the drama. We got a C-, my first ever. At home, Mom found me crying over my laptop. The grade felt like the final straw on top of everything else. We could switch schools, she said gently. Start fresh. That's what she wants, I said. She wins if we run. Mom stroked my hair. Sometimes winning looks different than we think. But I saw the defeat in her eyes, the way Dad's shoulders slumped at dinner, how Thon pushed food around his plate without eating. Even Grandma's usual stories had stopped. Ashley wasn't just targeting me anymore. She was unraveling our entire family. The next week, she showed up at my Chinese cultural dance practice. I want to join, she announced to our instructor. I'm very passionate about authentic Chinese culture. She'd changed into a qipao in the bathroom, the cheap kind from Amazon. Seams already straining. Our instructor looked confused but welcoming. That was her nature. Ashley positioned herself right behind me. Every move I made, she critiqued loudly. That's not how my boyfriend Kevin taught me, she'd say. Or, in authentic Chinese dance, the arms should be higher. When I finally snapped and told her Kevin had dumped her, she gasped dramatically. Why are you so obsessed with my relationship? He told me you've been texting him. It's really inappropriate. I hadn't texted Kevin once, but the other dancers looked at me with new suspicion. During a water break, I noticed my backpack was unzipped. My wallet was still there, but papers were shuffled. My phone was in a different pocket. Ashley stood nearby, typing on her phone with intense concentration. Did you go through my bag? I asked. She looked up with wide, innocent eyes. Why would I do that? Are you missing something? Maybe you should be more careful with your things. That night, my social media lit up again. New fake posts. These included personal details only someone who'd seen my school ID or personal documents would know. Details that made the fakes look more authentic. I was documenting everything now. Screenshots of the fake accounts, times and dates of Ashley's harassment. But it felt like trying to catch smoke. She was always one step ahead, always with plausible deniability. The breaking point came in the bathroom during 5th period. I found Emma crying in the far stall, trying to muffle stifle her sobs with toilet paper. Emma? I knocked gently. Are you okay? The crying stopped. After a long moment, the stall door opened. Emma's face was blotchy and red, mascara streaking her cheeks. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. I stepped closer to Emma, my heart racing. What do you mean? She glanced nervously toward the bathroom door, then pulled me into the stall with her. Her hands trembled as she dug through her backpack, finally producing her phone. I've been recording you, she admitted, her voice barely audible. Ashley made me. She said if I didn't help her, she'd tell everyone about my mom's drinking problem. My stomach churned, but I forced myself to stay calm. What kind of recordings? Emma scrolled through her phone, showing me audio files dated over the past 3 weeks. Conversations. She wanted me to catch you saying something she could twist. But Cherry, I swear you never said anything bad. So she started getting angry with me. The bathroom door swung open. We both froze. Footsteps echoed on the tile floor, stopping right outside our stall. Emma, are you in here? Ashley's voice was sickeningly sweet. We need to talk about that thing. Emma's face went white. I put my finger to my lips, barely breathing. I know you're in here, Ashley continued. I saw you come in. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. After what felt like hours, the footsteps retreated. The door closed. Emma collapsed against the stall wall, shaking. She's getting worse, Emma whispered. Yesterday she told me to plant something in your locker. I refused. That's when she threatened to post photos from Madison's birthday party last year. The ones where I got too hammered. I felt a surge of protective anger. Emma, we need to stop her. Together. Emma shook her head frantically. You don't understand. She has dirt on everyone. Madison's family's business? They accidentally hired someone without proper work permits last summer. Ashley's dad is a lawyer. She said one phone call would shut them down. The pieces were falling into place. Ashley hadn't just been targeting me. She'd been building a network of control, using everyone's secrets as weapons. But here's the thing, Emma continued, her voice gaining strength. I kept recording even when she didn't ask me to. I have her admitting things, laughing about the fake immigration tip, bragging about the social media accounts. My pulse quickened. Can I hear them? Emma plugged in her earbuds, handing me one. Ashley's voice filled my ear, clear and cruel. Cherry's so stupid. She actually thinks her family is safe just because their papers are real. Wait until her dad's boss starts asking questions. I made sure to mention his name specifically when I called. Another recording. The fake reviews are genius. Nathan's Bakery will lose so much business. Maybe Cherry will have to quit and focus on packing for her deportation. Her laugh was chilling. There's more, Emma said, swiping to another file. This one's from yesterday. Ashley's voice again. I'm going to befriend every single person in Cherry's life. Her cousin was easy. Just had to play the concerned friend card. Next, I'm working on her brother's teacher. Plant some doubts about their home situation. Maybe suggest the stress is affecting his performance. I felt sick. Dan's stomach ache suddenly made more sense. We need to tell someone, I said. With what proof? Emma asked. She'll say the recordings are fake, edited. She's already setting up that narrative, telling people you're good with technology. She was right. Ashley had thought of everything. That afternoon, I found Madison sitting alone in the library. She looked up when I approached, immediately glancing around as if checking for Ashley. We need to talk, I said quietly. Madison's hands tightened on her textbook. I can't be seen with you. It's about Ashley. Emma told me about your family's business. Madison's face crumpled. One mistake. One honest mistake hiring someone, and now she owns us. Do you know what losing our business would mean? It's been in my family for 30 years. I sat down across from her. What if we could stop her? How? Madison's voice was bitter. She's 3 steps ahead always. Did you know she's been taking photos of people's houses? Their cars? She jokes about it, says she's documenting her friends' lives, but we all know what she's really doing. The weight of Ashley's web pressed down on me. How many others were trapped like this? There's something else, Madison continued. She's been talking to O'Catherine a lot, showing her your posts about how new students are annoying. O'Catherine's been here 2 weeks and already thinks you're horrible. I thought about O'Catherine's cold shoulder in art class, another relationship poisoned before it could begin. After school, I waited for Thon by the middle school entrance. When he finally emerged, he was walking with his shoulders hunched, trying to be invisible. Hey, I said gently, want to get ice cream? He shrugged, but I saw a flicker of the old Thon in his eyes. We walked to the nearby shop in silence. Only after we'd gotten our cones and found a quiet bench did he start talking. They follow me everywhere, he said. The 8th graders. They ask if we've started packing, if I'll have to learn Chinese when we get sent back. Today, someone put a fake deportation notice in my locker. My hands clenched around my cone. Did you tell a teacher? I tried. Mrs. Chen pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay at home. If mom and dad were putting too much pressure on me about grades, she said someone had expressed concern about my home environment. Ashley, of course. Then I'm going to fix this, I promised. He looked at me with eyes too old for 11. How? I didn't have an answer. That evening, Grandma's cough worsened. Mom called the doctor, speaking in rapid Mandarin. I caught fragments. Stress, medication adjustment, heart palpitations. Dad paced the living room, his phone buzzing constantly with work emails. Maybe we should consider moving, Mom said quietly after hanging up with the doctor. Not because of that girl, but for Grandma's health. Less stress. Running away? Dad's voice was sharp. Teaching our children to flee when things get hard? Teaching them to choose their battles? Mom countered. This is affecting all of us. Your job, Than's education, Grandma's health. They argued in hushed tones, switching between English and Mandarin. I retreated to my room, feeling the weight of being the cause of all this chaos. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Check your Instagram. With trembling fingers, I opened the app. My stomach dropped. New posts had appeared on my account. Photos I'd never taken, captions I'd never written, pictures of Ashley with cruel comments underneath, screenshots of fake conversations where I supposedly called her pathetic for trying to be Asian. The posts had been up for hours, hundreds of views, dozens of comments expressing shock and disappointment. My actual friends knew I didn't have access to my account during school hours, but did that matter? I tried to delete them, but my password had been changed. The recovery email had been switched to something I didn't recognize. I was locked out of my own digital identity. The next morning, Principal Harrison called me in before first period. This time, Ashley wasn't there. Just me, my parents, and a woman I didn't recognize. "This is Ms. Rodriguez from the district's digital safety department," Principal Harrison explained. "We're taking these cyberbullying allegations very seriously." Ms. Rodriguez opened a folder filled with printed screenshots, the fake posts, but also new things. Comments on other students' photos from accounts with my name, messages to teachers from email addresses similar to mine, a whole digital paper trail painting me as an unhinged bully. "I didn't do any of this," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "We have to investigate all claims," Ms. Rodriguez said professionally. "In the meantime, we're recommending a temporary social media ban for all parties involved." "All parties?" Mom asked. "So Ashley too?" "Yes. We've noticed she's been quite active online as well." It was a small victory, but Ashley had already done her damage. At lunch, I found refuge in the music room. The choir teacher, Mr. Jameson, let students practice during lunch if they were quiet. I sat at the piano, letting my fingers find familiar melodies. "You play beautifully." I turned to find Catherine standing in the doorway. "Thanks," I said cautiously. She moved closer, setting her lunch bag on a chair. "Emma talked to me, showed me some things. I owe you an apology." Relief flooded through me. "Ashley can be convincing." "She really can," Catherine agreed. "She told me you thought new students were beneath you, said you'd called me fresh meat, and laughed about how I'd never fit in. She seemed so concerned, so genuine." "That's her gift," I said, turning back to the piano, making cruelty look like kindness. Catherine sat beside me on the bench. "Emma's not the only one who's been recording things. I have a few videos from art class. Ashley admitting she went through your bag might be helpful." Another ally. The web was starting to fray. That afternoon at the bakery, Nathan pulled me aside. "The fake reviews have been reported. The platforms are investigating. But Cherry, I need you to know your job is safe. I've been in business long enough to weather storms like this." I nearly cried with relief. "Thank you. I'm so sorry this is affecting the bakery." "You know what's interesting?" Nathan said, pulling up his tablet. "All those negative reviews came from accounts created within the same week. Same writing style. Same complaints. The review platforms have algorithms for this kind of coordinated attack." He showed me the data. Ashley had been sloppy in her anger. The digital footprints were all there. "My nephew works in IT," Nathan continued. "He says with the right expertise you can trace a lot more than people think. IP addresses, device signatures, metadata." Hope sparked in my chest. "Really? Really? And he owes me a favor." That evening, Victoria showed up at our door. Her eyes were red-rimmed and she clutched a coffee shop cup with shaking hands. "I'm so sorry," she said before anyone could speak. "I'm so sorry. I should have trusted family. I know that now." Mom ushered her inside. We gathered in the living room where Victoria explained everything. Ashley kept showing up at my usual study spot. Always friendly, always concerned about you all. She said she was worried about Cherry's behavior. Showed me screenshots, articles about toxic family dynamics and gaslighting. She made me doubt everything I knew about you. Dad's jaw tightened. "When did you realize the truth?" "Today." I overheard her on the phone. She was laughing about it. Said, and I quote, "That stupid college girl believed everything. Cherry's family is so isolated now, even their own relatives won't defend them." Victoria started crying. I confronted her, told her I knew she was lying. She just smiled and said I'd already done my part. The damage was done. "It's not your fault," I said, meaning it. "She's really good at manipulation." "There's more," Victoria continued. "I started talking to other students at the coffee shop. She's done this before, at her old school. A Korean girl named Sarah. Ashley became obsessed with her boyfriend, tried to break them up. When that failed, she made Sarah's life hell until her family moved away." My blood ran cold. We weren't her first victims. Grandma, who had been quiet all evening, suddenly spoke in Mandarin. Mom translated, "She says this girl has a sickness in her heart, but sickness can be cured if exposed to light." That night, I created a shared document. Emma, Madison, Catherine, and Victoria all had access. We started compiling everything. Screenshots, recordings, dates, times. The pattern became clear. Ashley's escalating behavior, her calculated attacks, her network of manipulation. Madison contributed something unexpected. My older sister graduated with Ashley's brother. He's in tech, really good with computers. I asked her to reach out. "Why would he help us?" Emma asked. "Because," Madison said quietly, "he's been cleaning up Ashley's messes for years. Their parents make him. He's tired of it." The next day, Ashley noticed the shift. At lunch, she sat at our old table alone. Emma, Madison, and the others had quietly migrated elsewhere. She tried to maintain her queen bee status, but whispers were spreading. People were comparing notes, realizing how many of Ashley's stories didn't add up. She cornered me after PE, her face flushed with anger. "What did you do?" "Nothing," I said honestly. "People are just starting to see the truth." "You turned them against me," she hissed. "After everything I did to learn about your culture, to appreciate it, you're just jealous and spiteful." I looked at her calmly. "Ashley, you called immigration on my family. You tried to get my dad fired. You made my little brother afraid to go to school. That's not appreciation. That's obsession and cruelty." Her mask slipped completely. "You think you're so special because you were born Chinese. You get everything handed to you. The culture, the language, the authenticity. I have to work for it, and you still look down on me." "I never looked down on you," I said. "I tried to help you, but you didn't want to learn. You wanted to own. There's a difference." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "This isn't over. My mom's lawyer is already drafting papers. Cyberbullying is a crime. Your family will pay for what you've done to me, what I've I've done, I couldn't help but laugh. Ashley, we have evidence. Real evidence. Not doctored screenshots, not fake accounts. Recordings of you admitting to everything. Her face went pale. You're lying. Emma's been recording for weeks. Madison has photos of you going through lockers. Oh, Catherine has video from art class. Your brother is tired of covering for you and has offered to help trace the fake accounts back to your devices. Ashley stumbled backward, her carefully constructed world crumbling. They won't believe you. Your mother will what? I interrupted. Sue children for telling the truth? How do you think that will look? Especially when the bakery's review platforms already flagged your fake accounts as coordinated harassment? She turned and fled, leaving me standing in the empty hallway. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe, but Ashley wasn't done. That evening, our mailbox was knocked over again. This time, it was filled with printed copies of the fake posts, annotated with cruel comments. Dad installed a security camera within the hour. At school the next day, posters had appeared overnight. Justice for Ashley, in bold letters, with pictures of the fake screenshots below. But something had shifted. Instead of believing them, students were tearing them down. A group of seniors I'd never spoken to approached me in the hallway. We know what she's doing, one said. She tried this with my girlfriend last year. We've got your back. The network of Ashley's victims was larger than I'd imagined. Stories poured in. A Vietnamese boy whose girlfriend Ashley had pursued. A Japanese exchange student Ashley had befriended, then terrorized when she wouldn't teach her authentic calligraphy. A Chinese-American girl from Ashley's middle school who'd endured months of harassment. We weren't alone. We'd never been alone. Then came home that day with something approaching a smile. The 8th graders got in trouble, he reported. Someone showed the principal the fake deportation notice they put in my locker. Turns out it had Ashley's printer signature in the metadata. Technology, Ashley's weapon of choice, was becoming her downfall. That weekend, Ashley's brother reached out through Madison's sister. His name was Marcus, and he looked exhausted when we video called. I've been cleaning up after Ashley for years, he said. Deleting accounts, hiding evidence, managing her digital footprint. My parents think she's just passionate and misunderstood. They have no idea how deep this goes. He shared his screen, showing us file folders dated back 3 years. Every time she fixates on someone, it follows the same pattern. Obsession, attempted infiltration, then destruction when she doesn't get what she wants. You're the 4th family I know of. Why are you helping us? Victoria asked. Marcus rubbed his face. Because I'm tired. I'm in my 2nd year of college, and I'm still getting calls to fix her messes. And because what she's doing is wrong. My parents won't see it, but maybe if there are actual consequences this time. He helped us trace the fake accounts, the edited screenshots, the coordinated reviews. Everything led back to Ashley's devices, her IP address, her digital fingerprint. The evidence was overwhelming. One more thing, Marcus said before ending the call. She's been researching your grandmother's heart medication. I don't know why, but be careful. The warning sent chills through all of us. Mom immediately moved Grandma's medication to a locked drawer. Monday morning brought a development none of us expected. Kevin, Ashley's ex-boyfriend, approached me before first period. I owe you an apology, he said without preamble, for not speaking up at Madison's party, for letting her use me as a prop in whatever game she was playing. I studied him carefully. Why now? Because she won't leave me alone, he admitted. She's been telling people we're still together, showing up at my basketball practices, texting from different numbers after I blocked her. My parents are considering a restraining order. Another victim, another story. The pattern was becoming undeniable. There's going to be another meeting, Kevin continued, with the principal, the district, parents. My family's lawyer says with enough people coming forward, with real evidence, something might actually happen this time. Because there had been other times, other schools, other families who'd suffered in silence or moved away rather than fight. Not us, not anymore. The meeting was scheduled for Thursday. As word spread, more people came forward. The Vietnamese boy, Jason, had screenshots of Ashley creating fake dating profiles using his photos. The Japanese exchange student, Yuki, had emails where Ashley threatened to report her visa status if she didn't teach her real Japanese, not the watered-down classroom version. Wednesday night, our security camera caught Ashley approaching our mailbox again, but this time, a neighbor was watching. Mr. Patterson, a retired teacher who'd been following the situation, confronted her. The footage showed her running away, leaving behind a bag filled with more printed screenshots and a typed letter full of accusations. Attempted mail tampering is a federal offense, Mr. Patterson informed us the next morning. I've already reported it. The walls were closing in on Ashley, and she knew it. Thursday's meeting was held in the district conference room. Families filled every seat. Ashley sat with her parents and their lawyer, her usual confidence replaced with something brittle and desperate. The superintendent opened with a statement about taking all allegations seriously. Then, one by one, families presented their evidence. Emma's recordings played through the speakers. Ashley's voice, clear and damning, admitting to everything. Marcus testified via video call, sharing the digital trail he'd uncovered. Nathan presented the review platform's investigation results. When it was my family's turn, Dad stood with quiet dignity. He spoke about the fear his children had lived with, the questions at his workplace, the stress on his elderly mother. He presented the Immigration Service's confirmation that the anonymous tip had been fraudulent. Mom added the anonymous letters sent to her workplace, now traced back to Ashley through the printer signatures Marcus had identified. Than, brave little Than, stood up and spoke about the 8th graders who'd tormented him. He showed the fake deportation notice, the printer metadata highlighted. I just wanted to make friends and learn, he said simply, but I was too scared to go to school. Ashley's parents watched with growing horror. Her mother, who'd been so aggressive in defending her daughter, seemed to shrink with each revelation. Her father's face went from red to white to gray. When Ashley's lawyer tried to dismiss the evidence as circumstantial, the superintendent cut him off. We have multiple witnesses, digital forensics, and recorded confessions. This goes far beyond school discipline. This is systematic harassment and fraud. The consequences were swift and severe. Ashley was expelled, effective immediately. The district recommended criminal charges for harassment, fraud, and cyberstalking. Her parents were advised to seek immediate psychiatric intervention for their daughter. Ashley stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "You're all jealous," she screamed. "I just wanted to appreciate your cultures. I wanted to be included. You're the real racists, keeping me out because I'm white." Her father physically pulled her from the room as she continued screaming. The silence that followed was deafening. The superintendent turned to the assembled families. "I apologize that it took this long to address the situation. We'll be implementing new policies to prevent this kind of systematic harassment in the future." It was over, or at least this chapter was. The next morning, I woke up to find Dad already dressed for work, adjusting his tie in the hallway mirror. His hands weren't shaking anymore. Mom was making breakfast, humming softly while Thon actually ate his cereal instead of pushing it around the bowl. But the peace lasted exactly until I got to school. Ashley's car was in the parking lot. My stomach dropped. How was she here after being expelled? I found out during first period when an announcement crackled over the intercom. "All students involved in yesterday's district meeting, please report to the main office immediately." The hallways felt longer than usual. Emma caught up with me halfway there, her face pale. "My mom got a call this morning. Ashley's parents filed an emergency injunction. She's back pending appeal." Madison joined us at the office door. "My dad said they're claiming the evidence was obtained illegally, that we violated her privacy by recording without consent." Inside Principal Harrison's office, Ashley sat between her parents and a different lawyer. This one wore a sharper suit and had the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. Ashley's face was composed, almost serene, like she'd already won. "Thank you all for coming," the lawyer began. "We're here to discuss the serious violations of my client's privacy rights. Recording someone without their knowledge is illegal in this state. Any evidence obtained this way is inadmissible." My parents exchanged glances. Dad cleared his throat. "We were told the recordings were made in public spaces where there's no expectation of privacy." "That's debatable," the lawyer said smoothly. "But more concerning is the coordinated harassment campaign against my client. Multiple students conspiring to destroy her reputation. That's cyberbullying at its worst." I watched Ashley's face. She kept her eyes downcast, occasionally dabbing at them with a tissue. The perfect victim act. Catherine's mom spoke up. "Your client went through my daughter's backpack. We have video evidence." "Allegedly," the lawyer corrected. "The video is grainy and inconclusive. It could be anyone." The meeting continued like this for an hour. Every piece of evidence we'd gathered was picked apart, questioned, dismissed. Ashley's parents sat rigid, her mother's knuckles white as she gripped her purse. When we finally left, nothing had been resolved. Ashley was back in school, pending investigation. The restraining order Kevin's family had filed was under review. The criminal charges were being evaluated. At lunch, Ashley reclaimed her spot at our old table. She sat alone, but her presence was enough. Emma, Madison, and the others huddled at a corner table, speaking in whispers. "She can't get away with this," Catherine said, her voice fierce. But as the days passed, it seemed like she could. The administration, terrified of lawsuits, treated everyone with kid gloves. Teachers avoided taking sides. The social media ban was lifted because Ashley's lawyer argued it violated her First Amendment rights, then started having nightmares. I heard him crying one night and found him curled up in bed, clutching his robotics club certificate. "She's back," he whispered. "The 8th graders said she's back and madder than ever." I sat on his bed, rubbing his back. "We're not giving up. What if she wins?" His voice was so small. I didn't have an answer. The next day, Ashley escalated. She arrived at school wearing a traditional hanfu, the elaborate Chinese dress sweeping the hallways. She'd hired a photographer to follow her around, documenting her cultural appreciation journey. "For my college applications," she explained loudly to anyone who'd listen, "I'm writing about overcoming discrimination and embracing diversity despite adversity." She positioned herself near my locker between classes, speaking Mandarin phrases just loudly enough for me to hear. They were all wrong, tones mangled, meanings twisted. But when I walked past without reacting, she called out, "Cherry, could you help me with my pronunciation? I want to make sure I'm being respectful." I kept walking. Behind me, I heard the photographer's camera clicking. In the bathroom later, I found a note taped to the mirror. "Drop the charges or things get worse. You know I always win." It wasn't signed, but I recognized the handwriting. That afternoon, Nathan called me into his office at the bakery. His face was grim. "We lost the Riverside Academy account," he said. "They called this morning to cancel their weekly order. Said they heard concerning things about our health standards." Riverside Academy was Ashley's old private school. Of course. "I'm so sorry," I started, but Nathan held up his hand. "This isn't your fault. But Cherry, I need you to understand something. I can weather some storms, but if she keeps targeting our commercial accounts," he didn't finish. He didn't need to. At home, Mom was on the phone with her supervisor. I caught fragments of the conversation. "Yes, I understand the concerns. No, there's no validity to the claims. I have all my original transcripts. Dad came home early, his face drawn. HR wants to do a full background check. They say it's routine, but the timing." He trailed off, loosening his tie. Grandma watched us all from her chair, her eyes sad. She'd stopped taking walks, stopped cooking her favorite dishes. The stress was wearing on her more than any of us wanted to admit. That night, Victoria called. "Ashley showed up at my dorm," she said, her voice shaking. "She had flowers, said she wanted to apologize for the misunderstanding. My roommate let her in before I got back." "What did she do?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "Nothing was missing, but things were moved. My laptop was open. My journal was on a different page. She left a note saying she hopes we can be friends again." The violation made my skin crawl. Ashley was showing us she could reach us anywhere. The next morning, Marcus texted our group chat. "She's using VPNs now, harder to trace, but I found something interesting. She's been researching emancipation laws." "Why?" Emma asked. My guess? If she can legally separate from her parents, she can claim they forced her into therapy, paint herself as the victim of abusive parents who are punishing her for embracing diversity. The manipulation was breathtaking in its scope. At school, Ashley had recruited new followers, freshmen who didn't know the history, transfer students who only saw her designer clothes and confident smile. She held court in the cafeteria, teaching them phrases in Mandarin, showing them how to use chopsticks. Cultural exchange is so important, she said loudly as I passed. Some people want to gatekeep their culture, but I believe in sharing and learning. One of her new followers, a freshman named Brittany, approached me after class. Ashley says you're trying to stop her from learning about Chinese culture. That's pretty prejudiced. I stared at her. Did she also tell you she called immigration on my family? Brittany's face scrunched in confusion. She said you made that up to get attention. The gaslighting was spreading like a virus. Than's teacher called that evening. Mrs. Chen wanted to discuss his recent behavioral changes. When Mom asked for specifics, the teacher hesitated. He's been withdrawn. Some students mentioned there might be tension at home. I just want to make sure he has the support he needs. Mom's voice was ice. My son is being bullied because of false rumors. That's the only tension. But the seed of doubt had been planted. I saw it in the way Mrs. Chen's emails became more formal, how she watched Than more closely during pickup. Ashley's campaign was working. She was creating enough smoke that people assumed there must be fire. Friday brought a new crisis. The local Chinese Cultural Center, where I'd volunteered for years, received an anonymous complaint. Someone had accused me of gatekeeping and creating a hostile environment for non-Chinese students trying to learn. The director, Mrs. Liu, called me personally. I don't believe a word of it, she assured me, but the board is worried about perception. They want you to take a break from volunteering until this blows over. Another piece of my life chipped away. That weekend, Ashley threw a party. She posted about it everywhere, calling it a multicultural celebration. Photos flooded social media. Ashley in various traditional outfits from different cultures, teaching party games she'd Googled, serving food she'd ordered from restaurants, building bridges, not walls, her caption read. Real appreciation means bringing people together. The comments were split. Some praised her efforts. Others, who knew the truth, stayed silent. Speaking up meant becoming her next target. Emma texted me a photo from the party. Ashley had set up a whole display about her journey into Chinese culture. It included photos of her with Kevin at Chinese restaurants, wearing traditional clothes. At the center was a printed screenshot of my bullying posts with a caption, "Rising above hate with love." The narrative was shifting. Ashley wasn't the villain anymore. She was the hero, bravely pursuing her passion despite discrimination. Monday morning, I found my locker vandalized. Someone had stuffed it with takeout menus and written, "Go home" in marker. The security footage was mysteriously corrupted for just that time period. During PE, someone cut my gym clothes while I was in the shower. I had to wear my sweaty uniform for the rest of the day. When I reported it, the gym teacher sighed, without proof of who did it. Always without proof. Always just shy of consequences. Then came home with a bloody nose that day. He said he'd tripped, but I saw the fear in his eyes. Mom wanted to march to the school immediately, but Dad stopped her. "They'll say we're overreacting, making trouble. It'll make things worse." The helplessness in his voice broke my heart. We were drowning in Ashley's manufactured chaos. That night, Grandma had chest pains. The ambulance came, lights flashing in our quiet street. As the paramedics loaded her in, I saw curtains twitching in windows. By morning, the whole neighborhood would be talking. At the hospital, Grandma was stable but weak. The doctor talked about stress-induced arrhythmia, adjusting medications, monitoring closely. Mom held Grandma's hand while Dad paced the waiting room. "This has to stop," Mom said quietly. "Whatever it takes, this has to stop." I knew what she meant. We could leave, start over somewhere new, let Ashley win. But then Marcus texted, "Emergency, check your email." He'd sent a link to a blog post, "My Truth, Standing Up to Cultural Gatekeepers" by Ashley Morrison. In it, she detailed her journey into Chinese culture, how she'd been bullied and ostracized for her genuine interest. She named me specifically, painting herself as the victim of reverse racism. The post already had hundreds of shares. Comments poured in supporting her, condemning me. Someone had even started a petition to have me removed from school activities for creating a hostile environment. But Marcus had found something else. "Look at the metadata," his email said. "She wrote this 3 weeks ago, before the district meeting. She's been planning this narrative shift the whole time." I forwarded everything to our lawyer, the one my parents had hired when it became clear the school wouldn't protect us. He called within an hour. "This is good," he said. "Shows premeditation. But we need more. Something definitive." That something came from an unexpected source. Tuesday afternoon, Ashley's new freshman friend Brittany found me in the library. Her face was pale, hands shaking. "I need to tell you something," she whispered. "About Ashley." She pulled out her phone, showing me texts. Ashley had been coaching her on what to say to teachers about me, how to phrase concerns about my bullying without making direct accusations. "She said she'd make me popular," Brittany admitted. "Said she'd teach me everything about being sophisticated and cultured." But then, she showed me more texts. Ashley threatening to spread rumors about Brittany if she didn't follow instructions. Photos taken without Brittany's knowledge at the party. Leverage gathered for future use. "She's doing to me what she did to you," Brittany said, tears streaming. "I'm so sorry I believed her." I hugged her. "It's not your fault. She's very good at this." Brittany had saved everything. Screenshots, recordings of phone calls, even videos of Ashley coaching her on what to say. It was exactly what we needed. But Ashley must have sensed the walls closing in. That evening, she made her boldest move yet. Mom got a call from China. Her elderly mother, my other grandmother, was crying. Someone had called her, speaking in broken Mandarin, claiming to be from the government. They said our family was under investigation for fraud, that we might be sent back to China in disgrace. My grandmother, already fragile, had collapsed from the stress. She was in the hospital now, my aunts and uncles rallying around her. Mom's hands shook as she hung up. She called my mother in China. How did she even get the number? I thought about Ashley going through my backpack, my phone. The pieces clicked into place. That's it, Dad said quietly. We're pressing charges. All of them. Harassment, fraud, stalking, everything. The lawyer was at our house within an hour. We compiled everything. Brittany's evidence, Marcus's digital forensics, the international harassment. It painted a picture of calculated, escalating abuse that had spread across oceans. Wednesday morning, Ashley wasn't at school. Word spread quickly. The police had been to her house. Her parents had withdrawn her pending the investigation, but she had one last card to play. That afternoon, a video went viral. Ashley, tears streaming down her face, sitting in what looked like a therapist's office. I just wanted to learn, she sobbed. I loved Chinese culture so much, but they made me feel like I was worthless, like I could never be good enough because of my skin color. I started having panic attacks. I couldn't eat. My parents are so worried. The performance was flawless. Within hours, it had thousands of views. Justice for Ashley started trending locally. People who'd never met either of us picked sides based on a 3-minute video. Our lawyer warned us to stay quiet, not to respond, but the damage was spreading. Dad's workplace got calls asking why they employed someone who would traumatize a young girl. Mom's promotion was quietly tabled, then refused to go to school. Then Kevin did something unexpected. He posted his own video. I dated Ashley Morrison for 2 months, he began. What I saw during that time, it wasn't appreciation, it was obsession. She fetishized my culture, my family. She wanted to own something that wasn't hers to take. He detailed specific incidents, how she'd insisted on speaking for him at family gatherings, how she'd corrected his own Mandarin pronunciation, how she'd photographed his family's heirlooms without permission, planning to buy replicas online. When Cherry confronted her at Madison's party, it wasn't bullying. It was someone finally standing up to months of prejudiced harassment disguised as appreciation. His video sparked others. Jason posted about the fake dating profiles. Yuki shared the threatening emails. Former classmates from Ashley's previous schools came forward with their stories. The narrative was shifting again, but this time toward truth. Thursday brought the biggest revelation. Marcus had been digging deeper into Ashley's digital history. He found a private blog she'd kept for years, password protected and hidden. The entries were chilling. Detailed plans for destroying anyone who crossed her. Racial slurs about the very people she claimed to appreciate. Fantasies about becoming the queen of various cultural groups. One entry from 3 years ago read, Sarah thinks she's so special because she's Korean. I'll show her. By the time I'm done, everyone will see me as more Korean than her. And when she objects, I'll destroy her for being a gatekeeper. Sarah, the Korean girl Victoria had mentioned, the one whose family had moved away. Marcus sent everything to the police and the district attorney. The blog showed a pattern of behavior that went far beyond teenage drama. Friday morning, Ashley's parents held a press conference. They looked haggard, aged years and days. Her mother spoke first. We failed our daughter, she said simply. We saw her interest in other cultures as admirable. We didn't see the darkness underneath. To all the families she's hurt, we are deeply sorry. Her father added that Ashley was entering intensive psychiatric treatment. They were cooperating fully with all investigations. They would pay restitution to affected families. It felt like victory, but a hollow one. Grandma was still in the hospital, then still flinched at loud noises. The bakery had lost 3 more accounts. That afternoon, Principal Harrison called an assembly. He apologized for the administration's failure to protect students. New policies would be implemented immediately. Training on recognizing manipulation and harassment. Clear protocols for reporting and investigating claims. We let you down, he said, looking directly at me. We won't let it happen again. After school, our original lunch group gathered in the cafeteria. Emma, Madison, O'Catherine, even some of Ashley's former followers. We sat at our old table, the one that had been a battlefield for so long. I'm sorry, one of the newer girls said. We should have seen through her. She was convincing, I said. That was her gift. We talked for hours about healing, about moving forward, about making sure no one else went through what we had, then joined robotics club again the next week. His friends had stood by him, forming a protective circle when older kids tried to approach. Dad's workplace issued a formal apology after reviewing the situation. Mom's promotion was back on track. Grandma came home from the hospital, fragile but determined. That girl tried to break us, she said in Mandarin, but we are stronger than her poison. The bakery slowly rebuilt its reputation. Nathan hired Brittany part-time, giving her a fresh start away from Ashley's influence. Customers who'd heard the real story made a point of supporting us. Ashley's blog posts were used as evidence in multiple investigations. Families from 3 different states came forward with similar stories. The girl who'd terrorized us was part of a larger pattern that was finally being addressed. Marcus sent one final message to our group. She's been admitted to a long-term facility. Court ordered. At least 2 years of intensive treatment. It wasn't jail, but it was accountability. Months later, I was accepted early decision to my dream college. The admissions essay I'd written about standing up to cultural appropriation and harassment had resonated with the committee. Then won first place at the state robotics competition. Dad got promoted. Mom's research was published in a major journal. Grandma started teaching mahjong at the community center, sharing our culture the right way. At graduation, I saw Ashley's parents in the audience. They'd come to support their nephew. Her mother caught my eye and nodded slightly. An acknowledgement, an apology, a closure. Victoria became one of my closest friends. Our bond strengthened by surviving Ashley's manipulation. Emma started a support group for students dealing with harassment. Madison's family business thrived, free from Ashley's threats. The last I heard, Ashley was still in treatment. Her brother Marcus had cut contact, focusing on his own healing. Some wounds take longer to mend. Our family portrait from that year shows us smiling, genuinely happy. But if you look closely, you can see the steel in our spines. We'd been tested by someone who tried to weaponize our own culture against us. We survived. survived. We thrived. We refused to let her win. And somewhere in a facility, getting the help she desperately needed, Ashley was finally facing the truth about herself. Not the victim she'd pretended to be, but someone whose obsession with owning others' identities had nearly destroyed multiple families. The irony wasn't lost on me. In trying to become us, she'd lost herself entirely. And in defending who we were, we'd become stronger than ever.